All right. What is going on, crew? Welcome to another live stream. We have got a really good one for you today. We've got Dean Zhu of the Xulab Collective coming in hot with a little rundown on his history, on his creative journey, and we'll also touch on what is going to happen in the workshop that we're having with Dean this weekend. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring our friend Dean up to the stage. Dean, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Hopefully everybody
Are we
else can hear
working?
you as well. So let's go.
Sweet. If not, I know they've got those lip syncing apps, so I'm gonna hope to be
Throw
some
some
kind of
subtitles up.
trending viral meme. Oh, he farted, like that kind of stuff. I love those memes. I can't get enough. How you doing, man? I love the studio. Is this your house?
Good. This is my house that serves quadruple duty. So many different things that go on in here. You know how that goes.
Brother, me and you
All right.
both, man. It's like I find times I eat, I work, I sleep here, so it's good, so it's all of it. So
Yep.
no, but thanks for having me. This is like super cool. I don't, I've not had a format like this before, and so, man, you know me, I love to chat, hang out, drink coffee.
Yes.
So this is kind of that format. So,
I figured this would be right up your alley. And this is going back to,
sure.
some of the initiatives that we put in this year. And, competitive cameras, for those that don't know, has been the go-to place for stills equipment since 1982. And this past year, we put several things on the table. Let's expand our cinema lineup, our cinema offerings. There's a couple other brands that we're bringing on at the end of the year, which I think you'll be very happy about. And the other thing was reaching back out to the community, not only in a sales capacity, but also a capacity to help grow the creative process and teach people just beyond the basic buttons and dials. Let's talk about the creative process. Let's talk about how people run their business and give everybody pointers and strengthen the community through just conversations like this. So I'm happy that you're on, man.
Dude, I love this format. I think it's so important. I was just telling a friend of mine, I feel like other cities, and maybe it's just because I'm not as plugged in. We don't have as much of a cohesive creative network as perhaps like a San Francisco or a New York, Seattle, Chicago, some of these, or Atlanta, some of these big cities, these networks that have more hubs for creativity. I know there's so many creative people here in Dallas. I mean,
Yes.
it's unreal. I think it's like second to like real estate agents. There's probably just as many like creatives out there. And I'm a big fan of just getting people together, and so whatever we can do professionally, personally, like just to get folks together to create. I think there's so much opportunity out there that there's really no room for anybody to feel even remotely like there's a competitive nature here. It's just like,
Yeah.
again, I know that's the name of your camera shop, but maybe it's collaborative cameras, but like there's that part of me where it's like, and this from, you and I doing back in the CrossFit days, there could be a CrossFit gym on every street corner and we still got plenty to eat, so
Yeah, it's
I
one of those
love
things that
formats like this.
people don't
So, yeah,
realize. There's the pie in Dallas is big enough for everybody to eat. Not one person could serve everybody that's in this
absolutely.
area.
Absolutely. I liken it to being on the beach, and when you scoop up sand, you're like panic because the sand's running out of your hands, right? But then you look up and you're like, wait a minute, I'm on a beach. There's sand everywhere. There's
Yep.
sand on the sidewalk. There's sand in my swim trunk. There's sand in my beverage. I mean, there's sand everywhere. And so I think sometimes we probably look a little too close and we're like, man, all this is leaving me. But man, just look around. Like there's stuff everywhere. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, this is so great. I love this format. So yeah.
So let's go ahead and, for the people that are tuning in that aren't from the area, that don't know who you are, let's tell them where home base is, where you work out of,
Sure.
Dean.
I am out of Dallas, Texas. We're right smack dab in the middle of 635 and 75. So we've been in this kind of Lake Highlands area for like, let's say the last 15 or so years. And so, yeah, Dallas
Okay.
is home base. It's a great hub for a lot of stuff. I mean, truth be told, we are kind of looking around to potentially like move a little bit outside the city limits. We just need a little room. We feel like
Yeah.
you get to a season of life where, city's enough, I'd rather be maybe 20 minutes from the city instead of in the city. But yeah, Dallas is the home base. And so, yeah, we love it here. We've got, great roots here with friends, family, and, all that community. So Dallas is home.
Now, how long have you been working as a creative full time?
Okay, so that's a very great question. I think if you really peel it back to 1998, I forewent my junior year of varsity basketball for a little class called multimedia. This class, multimedia, was a class that kind of in 1998 springboarded my creative interest. We learned Photoshop, Illustrator. I think it was like version 1 back in the day. This is we learned Corel Draw. We learned ancient computer languages that aren't even alive. Turbo Pascal. I mean, what in the world?
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm really dating myself here. But so I learned graphic design at a very young age, like in high school. And I just continued that in college. I love doing graphic design. I'm the guy printing like silly t-shirts for sororities and fraternity parties, what have you, very not politically correct t-shirts that would not fly nowadays. I would make some beer money, I'd make a little, or, whatever, soda money. And that's what I did for a long time. And then once I got out of formal schooling and I started getting into the CrossFit world, and me and a couple of buddies, we were running a bunch of CrossFit gyms, I would just do all our internal design work. And that spurred into meeting a couple other guys who we started a design firm together. And so I was doing graphic design for a long time before transitioning into photography and then later cinematography. My wife, Kelly, she's actually been a photographer for like the last 20 years. She was the one, and a bunch of other friends were kind of ones that encouraged me, hey, why don't you just pick up a camera? Because I was that annoying guy that like, hey, I'm building a website. Can you take a photo? But leave me this much room.
Making all these requests, and they're like, why don't you just do it?
Exactly. That's what happened. And so I just vividly remember Kelly handing me I still have it over here, this beat up old Nikon D6000, something crazy. And,
OG.
The memory card slot doesn't even work. I have to if it looked good, I would take a picture of it with my phone. Oh, that was a good photo. And then it would evaporate. And so I think for a long time, that's what we did. And honestly, it was I think around 2018 was when I really kind of jumped in full force. And I have I owe a lot of credit to my church, actually, Shoreline City, where they were just starting at that point, getting kind of this multimedia, doing a lot of weekend photos and stuff. And so I served on the photo team, and I didn't know what I was doing. And it was just kind of one of those things that you practice in the most difficult environments right out the gate. I mean, you're talking dark light. Nobody wants their photo taken, and people are moving around a lot. I mean, that's whoa. And so just kind of trial by fire, learning that way. And then over time, I think COVID was a lot of people were not big fans of COVID, and for good reason. It, for me, kind of really springboarded a lot of this creative career, where I remember starting to shoot video, and I would just practice with my kids. Our pastors literally lived a street away, and we would walk over there and help film stuff for Sundays. And just over time, that experimentation and learning and growing. And, I think photography and cinematography share a lot of similarities with art and graphics, in that, artists were kind of the original photographers. So I think if you understood composition, negative space in art and in graphic design, that translated really, really well to photography, because you're just doing somewhat the same thing. You're trying to create something really appealing. And so it just lent really well to it. And I love telling a good story. And so I realized quickly that was a format that I could help visually illustrate stories. And obviously motion and video was just the next level to that, where then it incorporates the team aspect. I think photography is great. Photography to me is playing, it's like golf or tennis. It's kind of a single sport. Yeah, it could be a team thing, but when you get into cinematography, now you're talking rugby, soccer, football, right? You've got to have a crew. You've got to have people that have very niche specific skill sets. And I think that's super fun too. And I love both. But yeah, that's kind of the timeline. So to be quite honest, I mean, I'm just blessed to be here. I'm kind of green to the whole thing. I think there's I think there's always this pre-pandemic, post-pandemic kind of like line where a lot of folks that were pre-pandemic folks that did this kind of work, especially in cinematography, I've noticed that there was a very traditional way of doing stuff. Like in the film world, there's very set rules and hard, fast rules. And I love that. But at the same time, I think this kind of new age approach allows a lot more collaboration of ideas, but then also kind of collaboration of service. I think that's a big thing for me, where when we get on set, like I'm a big fan of saying, hey, I know that so-and-so is the gaffer, but if he's just sitting around and he's done with this lighting job, he might come over here and help the audio engineer, just like run a wire. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we're just being common human, it's common human decency at that point, where I think a lot of traditional film sets are very rigid in kind of the hierarchy, and for right reason. I mean, obviously, listen, I'm not on these Hollywood sets with 50, 60 people. So the more people, obviously, you have to have more structure. But I even think in this new age, we often run crews of, a dozen or so, or 6, 7, 8 guys. It's pretty regular when we shoot our stuff. And so, but even then, I feel like we have created a little bit more of a niche culture where it's like, hey, we have our lanes, but if somebody needs help, and we're done, go over there and help. And so that's always been big for me. I think the set culture is really big for me too, where I really enjoy, because if we're creating content, but we're not having a good experience in the customer or the client or the subject that you're filming isn't, then what's really the point, right? So that at some point we have to really be thinking about the human experience for us too. And so anyway, yeah. So that's kind of that was the 10-minute elevator pitch right there. We got stuck in that. You asked me that question there. It was. So
this is not the first time this has happened, has it, Dean?
No. I actually, I intentionally shut the elevators down on purpose so I can talk. But anyway.
So let's backtrack just a little bit back to the early days of your, I guess, don't want to say just visual design. I guess you could say visual, not graphic design, but visual design, because that's basically what it is. Even though you're doing graphic design, you're creating something visual and you're telling a story. And that was one of the things that I was always impressed with your promotional materials for the CrossFit gym, because everything that you saw wasn't just, hey, here's the information, A through Z, boom. Everything visually created a story in your head somehow. And it's one of those things that the good designers can get the information out, but the great designers make you feel an emotion. And that's what I always was super impressed with everything that you guys put out. It motivated people to participate in whatever you guys were trying to get going on with the gym. It made it cool. There was a story behind it. People wanted to be a part of it. And that's not something that just, you can't really teach that, I don't think. I mean, you could maybe polish it up a little bit, but the ones that have it just have it. So when I saw you pick up the camera, I just knew it was going to be an easy segue for you. And I saw the progression from when you started shooting at the church all the way till now. And you have a very good eye for not only presenting information, but for creating curiosity out of just mundane things. And that's a gift. So thinking back on your beginning, how to kind of segue that back to where I was going, your early days of graphic design, you were in school for something completely different, even before the CrossFit stuff. What were you studying? What was your road?
Yes. So yes, I'll admit I'm, immigrant child from China. So let's just go ahead and, elephant in the room. We're going to just go ahead. There's really 2, maybe 3 careers that you can pick. I mean, that's not when you walk in that room, it's like, all right, you pick A, B, and C. And so, yes, I went through the medical route. And so I studied biology and music in college. I was not ready to go to medical school yet. So I stuck around Texas A&M for another 2 years, and I did a master's in nutrition at A&M. And that was fun. I mean, it kind of bought me some time. I think that was when my fitness for me really kind of like locked in, and I was like, okay, this is really cool. I really want to do something that I felt like it really did help people when you can help them in that route. And then the medical thing happened because, I mean, and my parents know this now. And so But it was definitely something that they really wanted me to do, and I pursued that dream. I won't say it was my dream, and I'm not saying that I didn't learn anything. I certainly did, and I'm very grateful for the opportunities. But I went to medical school at Texas Tech, and that's when I graduated. I came here to Dallas, and that's when I essentially just stopped. And I was like, "Look, I'm done with school. I'm fresh into an internship. I'm like, this really is not my thing." And so it was a hard pill for especially my parents to swallow. But
Yeah.
I will tell you that even then, the thing that I felt like I was drawn to the most, and this is like, forget medicine for a second. I think the medical career, it is what it is, and so I had my run with it. I'm thankful for it. Even there, I felt like this yearning to help people feel more seen. I always felt like the patients or the system that we were in, and again, no system's perfect, so I'm not making any kind of political or whatever claims. It is what it is. But I never felt like the patients were truly seen, in that they might have an ailment on paper, but there was always something deeper than that surface level. But because of the system that we were in, we never had the time, the resources, the means to really dig in with them. And
Yeah.
so I think that kind of like, that's always been a common theme for me, is like, I don't want to just do something. Like you said, I want to create, and I want to bring some awareness to what is actually going on. Hey, if we're going to do an event, we have to tell the backstory of why. Hey, if we're going to interview somebody, let's find out their backstory. If am I going to take a photo of somebody, I want to layer in details that maybe in one image you can kind of get a reference of where that person is coming or going, or what's going on in the scene, right? And so even then it was kind of like, just, it wasn't enough for me, in the sense that, like, obviously I was not as interested in pursuing medicine and being a doctor. But I think even deeper was, I just didn't feel like people were seen in that industry. And so, hey, instead of fight the whole system, I just left, and that's all. That's a whole nother episode. Like, Asian kids and their parents,
Yeah.
like what to do in a sticky situation. And so, but anyway, we've all reconciled since then, and it's great. But like that's where that's where my career was before even the CrossFit thing. It was kind of like, had a little brief stint in that. And so, no, again, it's uncanny the information you learn from that, because I've actually had several projects and clients that are in the medical world, and you'll be shocked and be like, whoa, like I actually can use some of that, especially when we're like shooting video and you're able to like understand terminology and direct people. I mean, it
Yeah.
certainly helped in the CrossFit world, because just the understanding of like, anatomy and, biometrics and kinesiology, obviously that definitely helped. But, yeah, so that was, I always joke, like, I feel like I'm like 90 years old. I'm like a vampire. I've lived a few lives, and I'm really grateful for it. But yeah.
It's funny because I went down the same route and stumbled upon photography by accident because I needed to fulfill an art elective in college. But I was actually all geared up to go through dental school, and then made a sharp pivot when I started shooting and making
Oh
money.
man, I'm so glad you did dental. You know what they say about the dental world. I mean, but so, yeah, I mean, isn't that funny though? Like, to share that. What do you think it was? You think it was just that nearsightedness of our parents, is saying like that was it? Or I sometimes even think like, in that era,
That's
there weren't that many options, right?
it was just the American dream of coming overseas and making it and establishing yourself as somebody in the community that's very well looked up to,
Mm,
doctor, lawyer, dentist, things like that.
that's it.
But
That's it. I mean, your parents are obviously cooler than now. What was like the
yeah.
what? I always want to know, like we could literally start a whole like a whole group. It's like, it is another AA. It's like Asians Anonymous. It's like, immigrant kid. Like, tell me what happened. Tell me, like, at what moment were your parents like, okay, okay, we love you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like, we
And
made you proud
90% of the
finally.
people in the group are like, I still haven't hit that point yet.
So like, what? Tell me when it happened. Like for me, it was like our fourth kid. They're finally like, all right, we're good. So
Yeah.
like, what was it for you? Like, or was it, were your parents a little bit more lax? What was it like?
They relaxed, but my mom was, the typical Asian mom, always worried, is like, is that going to be enough money? Where's your
Mm,
stability? And,
mm,
working as a freelancer, they can see that you don't have any kind of stability in the beginning. right? Until you get a routine set of clients
Sure.
that kind of cycle
Sure.
through the calendar year that you can depend on and kind of forecast, you're living check to check. And a lot of
Yeah.
times it comes and goes in waves, and that's not easy. And that's why a lot of people quit. And being a parent now, I can see why they were worried about it. And I wouldn't want that for my kid as either without any kind of assistance. Because my parents didn't understand it. They're immigrants.
Mm.
They worked in restaurants.
Yeah.
My mom was a part of a sweatshop. So
Yeah.
they didn't understand the whole
Yeah.
concept of working for yourself outside of having a practice. It was very foreign to them.
Yeah.
So they didn't understand it, but they're coming around.
No, this is great. There is so much to unpack there, and it's like I totally agree with you. I think it's just I have to think about how hard it is just to think about it. My dad was 30 when he came to this country. Imagine us being 30, going to a completely new country. It's not even equatable to like an American going to France. Like, come on, everything in
Yeah.
France is still catered to us. Like, we're talking a completely different culture, new language. Like, literally, the borders have just opened up. I think it was the Reagan administration that just opened up to allow that to happen. And you are literally, your entire life back at home is essentially, you can't access it. They don't have FaceTime. You can't call.
Yeah.
And then you have to start completely over. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm shocked at how well they managed, but it doesn't change the fact that, like you said, I think that was the best that they could do, right, with the resources. And I think that's what we're doing now. I think that's kind of the same immigrant spirit for me, is in that when we produce things, or when we're filming, or when we're using even something as simple as, like, we're going to do this class on lighting. Like, how do we get scrappy? Like, it's not always like, you're never going to always have all the resources you need. But if you have the resource of the method or the procedure up here, you don't really need an exact recipe. You just need to know how to do it. And then I think you can be very, very resourceful. And I think that part of being an immigrant has always been like I love to see something go, wait, I like that. Let me see how I can do it, but like scrapify, let me like save a couple bucks, or let me just kind of like, a lot of people call it poopy rigs for now, but I literally want to do it that way. And let me try to re-engineer it.
Yeah.
And then work on that skill for a while. And then, hey, I might work my way up to, oh man, I can finally buy that one thing that I needed that'll make life easier. But it's almost like, man, I learned how to do it the scrappy way. I always loved that mentality. And that's kind of like the brainchild behind this course, that we're going to do. So, but yeah.
So let's go back to your transition. Actually, what motivated the transition? I never asked you that. When you started shooting for the church and you went into this whole photography side, I was like, was that something that just happened to fall in your lap and you found it kind of interesting and you fell in love with it? Or did you, in that period, already kind of give yourself a road or a pathway to that?
No, that's a good question.
Coming out of COVID, because you guys parted ways at the gym at what year?
I was like 2018, really. It was even before the pandemic. And I was, I had already kind of gone, I did the thing where it was like, I wanted to take that final lap a couple more times. I think I had gotten out of being an owner there, but then I was still like lurking around, hanging out, trying to get some, hey, let me teach you class. And it's like, I just like, I feel Spencer's still there. Spencer at BPR, shout out to Spencer Nix. But he's still out there doing the same thing. It's just called something different. But like, he was one of my closest friends at the time. And like, it was just one of those things. It was such a hard thing to walk away from. I knew that I had other obligations as far as family, as far as like being able to be a little bit more, getting some of that time back. And honestly, the transition happened when I was doing a design project for a very specific coffee shop right near our gym called Herb's House. And my good friend Kent Steinbeck, he is, he's a real estate mogul, and he had the space open up that another coffee shop is vacated. They didn't want to pay rent anymore. And he's like, hey, I want my own coffee shop. He's like, and so he was a guy I was training at the gym, Kent Steinbeck. He's a great guy. He ended up being like, for a long time, one of my biblical mentors. Like, I had like a childhood level knowledge of the Bible. I still do. And so he's like the guy that's like helping me learn a lot of the stuff in that time period. And he was like, hey, let's do this. Why don't you help me design the coffee shop. You can do your branding. Let's, dip into some interior design work. And I just helped him create this coffee shop and this brand called Herb's House. I think they're still out there. They're doing these like really cool installs, even in Walmart and stuff. It's crazy. But at that time, we were like, hey, well, we need photos for like the coffee shop. And I was like, well, I'll give it a go. And he was the guy that first provided me the means to get my first camera. So it was like, here's money for a camera. You go get it. You go shoot, and let's just see what happens. And so instantly, I could bridge the gap between what I could visually see when I would design to what it's like that I stopped bugging all my friends, like all my photography friends and my wife, to take photos, and I could actually say, oh, I could kind of take control over how I want this to look. Things like exposure, aperture, like those things, shutter speed, they become these creative tools that I didn't, they felt like different types of brushes and textures that you would in art or in graphic design. I was like, this is so cool. I could literally shoot the same photo and create a totally different look every single time. I was like, man, this is awesome. And so that's when I was designing the coffee shop is when I really got into it. And then we started going to Shoreline City, and I'd realized that they needed a lot of help. They didn't have a whole serve team of photographers. And then I was like, man, I just was obsessed with taking photos. And I was like, man, there's another day to take photos. At that time, when I was transitioning out of the gym into doing full-time creative work, Kelly was the breadwinner, and we had 2 babies, and I put them in a bob stroller. I pack a camera and like water and snacks, and we would just go and we would just make laps around White Rock, and just like we would walk, we'd run, we stop at parks. I mean, I just had to, be outside with them for 4 or 5 hours. It's the only way I knew not to drive myself crazy or hand them an iPad. So our young ones, Frankie and Gigi, and I, we literally for the first maybe 2 years of their lives, they were 1 and 2 at the time. We spent majority of our time outside, and I've probably taken more pictures of those 2 than I still have of anything else. And so I just got so many reps doing that, and it was so fun. Yeah. And I think over time, like the repetitions got to the point where then every project I would, you start getting the little photo projects, and then they would jump into some big ones. I think I had a really big project where I randomly had an encounter with a guy in Salt Lake City. He's now a great friend of mine, Greg Miller. His family, he owned this Land Cruiser Heritage Museum. He has like one of each Land Cruiser that's ever been made. That's
pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's from the Larry H. Miller Foundation. Larry H. Miller was the first person that brought Toyota dealerships to America. So, and they used to own the Utah Jazz too. So, they're good, right? But you would never know this if you met Greg. Greg is wearing flip-flops and, whatever. And so that was my big first photography project. I actually got a couple of my really great friends that were great photographers, Chris Whitten and Johnny Miller on that. And that was my literally getting pushed into like, all right, here's commercial photography. Here you go. This is what it feels like 3 weeks, 7 days in a row, 15-hour days, shoot, edit. And it was like, get your fill. And so I think that transition at that point kind of really solidified, oh, like this is really happening. And it was funny because even things like editing photos, I was in Photoshop way before I ever took a photo, because I would have to edit photos for flyers and graphics and all that. So I'm editing people's photos left and right, editing thousands of images before I've ever even taken one. And so it was kind of an interesting backwards approach. I really felt like I was more of an editor than I was a photographer. And it just made the photography feel a lot easier to take in, So yeah, that was kind of the point where like a lot of things kind of happened all at once to be like, okay, this is going to happen now,
So for people that don't know, your wife is a full-time photographer, and she's been shooting since when?
Man, she's been shooting since, well, Lucy's 19, so probably 19, 20 years. So Our oldest, Lucy and Annie, are adopted from Vietnam, and she started a blog when she first adopted Lucy, and it was like she was just going to start taking pictures literally like this, like every day, and blog every day. It was her way to stay connected. And then she became just a full-fledged, family photographer. She has clients like all over the country. She's backed it down a lot because she's like, here's the baton, you do it. And it's like, okay.
But did you lean on her much at all when you transitioned over?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think she was one of my biggest sources of inspiration as far as how she, like, Kelly could walk into a room with like 5 crying babies, and she's like Mary Poppins. Something happens, and it's
The
like,
baby
whoa,
whisperer.
yeah, like they're all like, whoa, what just happened? And it's cool because nowadays she'll still have these, like, there's family she's been photographing for 18 years, since
Yeah.
these babies are babies and now they're graduating. And so I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this because it's really cool. She now like kind of hires me out. She's like, hey, I'm going to come do your photos, but I'm bringing my husband. He's going to actually do the photos. I'm just going to direct him. But just to see the type of relationship she has with these folks, I was so impressed by that because she really could just capture somebody's attention and never force a fake smile. I mean, these are genuine emotions that she can get out of people. She has this sixth sense about it. And so I've always really wanted to make people feel that comfortable,
Yeah.
whether it's like a studio session, you got all the time in the world, or if it's just a street session for like 2 seconds or you see somebody on the street and they look cool and you really want to grab their photo, but you don't want to be awkward. Like, how do you build that trust quick? And so she was always that inspiration for me to like really see the people versus just see the picture. Right. And so, yeah, so she's been at it for a while. She's backed it down a lot lately because she's like, well, you do it and I can hang out. I don't have to take photos anymore. Like, it's kind of nice, And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, she was the one that showed me the very first blog thing that she showed me was this Pioneer Woman. I know everybody knows her as like a chef, but Pioneer Woman is actually a great photographer. So she showed me this blog from like, oh gosh, like 2003, something crazy back then. And it talked about the exposure triangle. And I read this in like, if you guys know Pioneer Woman, like it's like, not French cuisine, it's butter, it's, grills, it's really simple mayonnaise, like, okay, things people understand. And so she wrote this blog about exposure triangle, and I'll never forget it. Like, I read that one pager and I was like, oh, duh, I got it. And this was after a year of just tinkering, and so yeah, Kelly was huge, very instrumental in me learning everything. So
that's dope, man. Because sometimes you can relate to this from the gym and watching people. Couples in that dynamic don't always work out. It's like the coach to athlete relationship between spouses, and that type of dynamic doesn't always pan out. So it's good that you guys found a rhythm and were able to benefit from that.
yes, I still, it's funny because her and I are still very, we're very different in that she is very much like structured. I want to get this organized. I want to get it done. I'm very whimsical when it comes to that. I kind of like to take my time. I'm like,
Yeah.
what about this? Let's think about this. And so, but I think those two things are very complementary in that I think in particular for us, we're very good about knowing boundaries as far as like, okay, because she now helps me with all parts of our business. I mean, it's not my business, it's ours. Like, when it comes to things that I know I'm going to drop the ball on, like she's constantly booking travel for like our crew. Like I'm not doing that. Like I'm gonna forget a guy, and they're like, hey, where's my ticket? Oh, I didn't know you're coming. I didn't know. Oh, sorry. But so she's like so on top of that part of it, and I think even from then on the creative side, that allows me the space to be like, okay, you got that. I don't have to think about that. I don't have to think about like, what equipment I'm going to have or what's our budget for this. It's like, this is what you get. And it's like, oh, great. I love working within parameters. And she's such a great person that sets really healthy parameters for our business that I can then operate with, up to that level or to that level. And so you're right. It is a difficult thing. It's a difficult dance to play that game. I think a lot of it is also understanding how to be honest and how to communicate. We constantly work on communication. That's not always been like a strong suit of mine, to communicate directly and like, again, you can talk to my therapist about what we go through or with my family, but like being direct, being honest, not getting blindsided by things. I mean, those are really big parts of like, what I think any relationship works, especially if you're going to work together. I think that's really important because really easy to get your feelings hurt, and somebody's got something they're thinking about, they're not. But yeah, we've navigated it so far. And so, yeah,
that's good because, going back on the Asian thing, it's not like growing up in a traditional Asian household where the father internalizes every single thing helps develop that skill.
I mean, they're like,
Yeah, right. I'm so
Happy,
happy
sad.
for
What's
you.
going on in there? Yeah, exactly. Like, wait, are you like, yeah, are you sad? I only seen my dad like emotional once, I think. And it was because I told him I was quitting medicine. No, um,
So
no, but like that's true. Like I think there is a cultural thing there too, where like even just talking about your feelings, feelings don't work,
yeah.
feelings, and so that's still somewhat still hardwired in a lot of what I do. And Kelly has a very different set of tools as far as communication goes, and it's very helpful to have that together, and so, but yeah.
So with this transition for you, in my eyes, it seems like it was pretty fast tracked because you went from, hey, I'm shooting some snapshots while I go to church to I'm shooting these big corporate deals. I've got some pretty big name clients. Do you feel like your community helped create that fast track? Were you around other creatives that because you kind of touched on it earlier on how you got into that Land Cruiser job or the Toyota job, and you had people that helped you out. Who were the instrumental people that kind of helped catapult this whole transition?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's so interesting because I'm a big believer in like literally being the least talented person in the room, and then like just being not afraid to ask for help. And so that was me
Hold
in
on
a
a second
nutshell.
though. I want to touch on that because that's something that I am trying to get across to my oldest, Lola, who's 14, and she's pretty talented in the things that she likes to do, and she rarely ever hears no. And I tell her, when I go to a job, or if I go to a gym, if I go to an athletic event, no matter what I'm doing, I don't see myself as the top dog. I go in with open ears and I listen. And if I don't know the answer or if I don't know what people are speaking about, I'll ask questions.
Right.
It's like
Hand up. Like, yeah.
I'll never speak on things that I have no knowledge of because you're gonna get sniffed out real quick, and people don't like that. So I think that a lot of creatives, it's a lot less prevalent these days. But back in the day when I started, because I started shooting in early 2000s, this is pre-YouTube, pre-social media.
Yeah.
Everybody was gatekeeping everything, and no matter what job I went to, every single model was the best model there. Every other photographer was the best photographer there. It was just an environment that didn't cultivate any kind of growth. So I think that you touching on that or even mentioning that is big because a lot of these youngins, they still feel that everything's so competitive that they can't have open doors.
Yeah. I think the best thing you can do, I had an old coach. Um, he said that I think it was, uh, I'm going to probably butcher it. I'm trying to think of the right coach. I'm getting old. I'm literally forgetting everything. Old CrossFit coach that said, "Hey, give everything away.
Yes.
Don't keep anything." It might have been Mark. I think it was Mark Twight out in Salt Lake City, but he was Jim Jones back in the day, trained the 300 crew. He said that, "Hey, give everything away. Don't hold anything in." And part of that always stuck with me in that, like, what is the, like, if you're a chef, right, and you have a phenomenal steakhouse, and you write a recipe, you write a cookbook, and you teach people how to make your steak, are you really in jeopardy of them never coming to your restaurant? I mean,
Right.
no, right? I mean, it still takes a lot of effort. They got to buy the apparatus, they got to buy the beef, they got to have the right cookware. I mean, they even have to just want to do it. So they might try it at home a few times and go, man, that's pretty good, but dang, I really need to go to so and so's restaurant. So I think when you give your ideas and your thoughts away, no, first of all, very few things are original ideas ever anymore. I mean, it's a remix on remix. It
Correct.
might be new to you, but it's
It's been
aperture
done
is not
before at
new.
some point.
Right. Well, shoot wide open to blur the background. That's not new to
Yeah.
anybody. It's like, people doing this. Like, okay. So like to me, it's always like, okay, how do I impart enough knowledge to people that keeps them curious? You mentioned something about curiosity. Yeah, that's what it is. Like, how did you get curious about something? What ignites somebody's curiosity to do it? I think a lot of the things I saw initially in the commercial world, in the kind of like, and I'm not name dropping a name drop. It's just kind of like what I saw. Like I was working at American Airlines headquarters for a few big projects very early on. This is early in cinematography world, but I'm like, oh, there's a red button that says REC. That's kind of cool. Wait, I got this gig already. Dang, like, and I think again, like without getting too deep into beliefs and theology, I think a lot of those are tests. A lot of things like God gives me like, hey, let me see how you steward this. And so
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with the tech. It has everything to do with how you handle yourself and people and your character and your integrity. And I learned very quickly, like you said, a lot of those folks that were early days, a lot of gatekeeping on set, a lot of gatekeeping in meetings, a lot of gatekeeping on information. I'm like, I thought we were all just trying to do the right thing for everyone here, not just for ourselves. And so it was always kind of one of those, like, I always told myself, hey, if I could ever have the platform to do it, I'd want to kind of flip the industry's culture on its head. Like, I don't care if you're the director. I don't care if you're just the grip or the PA. You're valuable. Your opinion matters. Like, everybody gets to add to the pool of meaning. You know what I mean? Like, it just because you're a director doesn't mean you are better than somebody that isn't in that role. Yeah, you might have a more important task at that specific moment, but that doesn't mean that somebody else down the chain doesn't have a critical role in your success, because your success is predicated on the teams. And so it's interesting because, and me saying that, you can't work with everybody either. And so there's been a lot of folks that I've worked with that, we don't cross paths as much. I think the biggest difference is now, I think our model is more, we're all independent contractors, that we have a choice, right? We really want to work with each other. And coincidentally, most of the people that I work with, almost everybody I work with now on a consistent basis, have all come from our church. And that was not necessarily intentional. It wasn't like, hey, let me just hand out flyers at the church door and say, do you want to work with me? Like, no, it just became this collaborative mindset that, wait, number one, are we all at the same heart posture? Okay, cool. Like, we're not here for ourselves. Like, it's nothing about egos here. Like, it's people over projects. Okay, cool. Now we can vibe. Then let's see where we are as far as professionalism, right? Because sometimes, like, hey, just because you and I go to church together doesn't mean you get an hour late. Come on,
just because we can vibe out over here doesn't mean that you've got the same work ethic.
Guys. Like, we still have a professional code we have to keep. Like, we still have to do what we say. But again, I think part of that was always like, I learned a lot from. I love working for others. I actually really love, like, putting my hand and saying, somebody hire me for a smaller task. I don't want to be the man in charge or the high man on totem pole, because I want to see what it feels like to take direction, to be able to then give better. I think you can give better direction when you take direction. And also, I love being in a role where I get to see where the holes are in the system and then maybe help plug some of those in. And so, yeah, a lot of the folks that I work with now, I mean, we do obviously share a much deeper, thread than just, hey, we love cameras, but and I'm always been a big fan of, like, don't work on your weaknesses, work on your strengths. Like, if you're already a 8 out of 10, somebody that sees good light, like, and you're a 1 out of 10 audio guy, don't spend all your time learning audio. Find the 8 out of 10 audio guy. Like, don't do that. Like, why are you wasting your time doing that? Because again, if you can find, but if your thought is, I have to do it all myself, yeah, I guess you have to. But if your thought is, man, I'm just going to be here and I'm going to own my world and my lane and find somebody that can match, I think that becomes a really cool synergistic experiment where, again, I love working with different people from all sorts of backgrounds, because I feel like, especially age too, I think a lot of folks, like, I mean, I'm 45, a lot of people our age are like, oh, those 20-year-olds. I'm like, I love them. Like, dude, keep me young, keep me fresh. I don't know nothing. Like, teach me words. Like, what are we saying on set now? Like, what's the hot word? Maxing? Bet? Like, what are we saying? Like, like, let me be relevant.
I came home with some swag from Sigma lenses, and Lola was like, Sigma. I was like, what does that mean? What does that mean in your language? She's like, it's
exactly.
good.
Wait, is that a good word? Or like, it's like, but no, I mean, that's really it. And so, yeah, I think I just and learning from people from other industries too, like great business leaders from other industries, I think is really important too. I think it's not, and even I'm very influenced also by the military. I was never in the military, but there's some great lessons that you can learn from organized military in that. What is the team doing? I think Jocko Willink has some great books out there that I've like literally, treat next to the Bible for me. I mean, these are like,
Yeah.
this is like almost gospel, not to defamate the Bible, not to compare it, but like, these are like things that I read and I'm like, man, like what a great heart to lead from behind. These are servant leaders. That's like this concept of a wolf pack, comes to mind all the time. I was just talking about this to one of my good friends that we shoot a lot. The alpha in a wolf pack isn't really the wolf that kills the most. It's actually the wolf that takes care of the pack. It allows everybody else to get their kills, but he's assessing like the health of the group, like who's injured, who's doing well, who's not doing well. That's what the alpha in a wolf pack does, and I think that's really interesting in that analogy, because I really do feel that mentality where like, man, if you get an opportunity to lead folks, it's really less about beating your chest and saying, look what I've done, but more saying, wait, how are you guys? Because you guys are going to do a lot of the work here. And I just want to make sure everybody's taken care of. And so I think a big part of that is just like, putting yourself out there, learning more education. And so, yeah.
Well, that kind of leads me into what I was going to ask of you next, because it seems that in your journey, you didn't spend a whole lot of time working through a lot of this solo. It seems like you've always had one or two people around you, or you've had a massive team behind you. Now, how early into this process did you already decide, all right, I need to build a team? And how did you build the team?
Man, that's a great question. I think initially I was like, I hope one day all my kids want to do this, because then I'd be like instantly we have. So right now I'm like, I think like I'm maybe 1 for 4. There's one of them that
Right.
I might want to hope to do that.
I'm over 2.
Yeah. So I mean, with our powers combined, yikes. I think very early on, because coming from as broken as it is, I think the medical world, I do remember like that there is a team approach, albeit the teams are predicated on which specialist knew more than the other one. Okay, but what I always noticed from the medical industry was, wait a minute, there's some doctors here giving orders, but like, the people that are really doing all the work are the nurses, are the PAs, are the techs, are the phlebotomists, like people doing triage, like, whoa, like ER triage, like, man, they're doing all the work. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, doctors do work, but that physical first contact. And I saw how that was a team thing, and they had a code where they would speak like, hey, we're doing this, we're going to do that. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And so from very early on, I knew that if I wanted to go fast, like I could go by myself, but if I wanted to go really far, I really needed a team. And so there's been a lot of great folks that I've worked with that, and I think everybody has different seasons in life, and you cherish and celebrate the seasons you're in. I'm not a big fan of regretting and remorsing things that have happened. We all learn and grow. And so, especially in the CrossFit world, I mean, we spent, Spencer, Sam and I, when we had our core CrossFit gym, we had so many gyms splinter from ours.
Yeah.
That at the time, a less mature dean was like, man, this kind of sucks. Like, everybody's leaving. Now I look at it more as like, man, I think we maxed out like the opportunity with that individual, and they're just moving on to do different things. And I can celebrate that. And so, and we're all products of our growth too. So as we evolve as individuals, humans, and our desires and needs and, growth, we become better and better at working with others. And I realized really early that like, it's not fun to work by yourself, like just packing your car, your van alone. Like, geez, like even just having somebody to talk to. I think it's really important. Also, I'm a big feedback guy. Like I'm always asked, hey, what do you think? Hey, what do you think? What did I do wrong? What can I do better? Yep. Because if I don't get feedback, and if you don't have people being honest with you, and this kind of goes back to the fitness stuff, like if your coach is like, yeah, that was a great rep, and you never hit depth on squat, and then you go to a competition and you're like, no rep the whole time.
Rep?
You're like, dude,
what is that?
Like, yeah. What's that, coach? What? I thought I was, oh, sorry, man. Here's the med ball, squat to that. And so like, I always want people to check my 6, not because I want them to get my back, but I wanted them to see things I'm not seeing. And so I love the concept of feedback. I love the concept of asking everybody in the room, like, hey, how could I do better? What could I do different? And so, and I think that's from that process is when everybody really grows and gels as a team. And so from very early on, and I think that was part of a lot of what we learned at church too, was we have the SIR team. We're all just thrown in a room. We have to figure it out on our own, and we have to then also be cohesive and collaborative. And the coolest thing was like we weren't working for ourselves. Like it was not like we went to take pictures and we post them and then tag ourselves. Like, look how cool we are. Like, hey, that's for somebody else. That's for the church. That's for a greater cause. And so that team approach is huge. And even now, like our team is constantly evolving as far as like, tweaking the finer points of that. And I think we're at the stage for me especially is like, how do I help other folks create teams, right? How do I encourage others to then find people that work well with them? How do I empower others to lead others as well? And so I just really don't see a system really working if it's only predicated on one or two individuals. I really do think that like that team approach has to just be something that you really crave. And as individuals, I think photography and even cinematography can feel, it is definitely a kind of a team sport. And so, yeah.
That's good. I think that your background in the CrossFit gym, leading classes and being able to diagnose personalities and abilities probably played a big part in you building the team that works. Because I think that's a huge benefit for anybody that's been able to grow up in the world of sports and having to participate in team sports. You quickly develop that skill of figuring out who's good at what and putting the right people in the right place.
Yeah. I mean, this is so funny you mentioned the CrossFit thing. I didn't even think it was, we're not giving it enough credit. To be quite honest, you're right. You've spurred this thought of, when we were competitive at our gym for the CrossFit games, it was very much that. It was like, well, number one, there's not that you put yourself in the hat and say, what can I offer the team? And then you have to really have a dose of humility to be like, I actually don't have a 300-pound power clean, so I shouldn't be in this event. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I can do 10 muscle ups though. Like whatever. And assessing folks on a very objective way. I think you're right. I think that did play a big part in like, and you have to do it fast. It's not like, you
have to do it fast and you have to be honest, because like you said, always
right.
Finding ways to improve what you're doing and asking for feedback. It's like, you can't improve if you don't know what's slacking. I mean, you have an idea, but there might be something else that you could work on that you didn't even think about, but other people see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's such a great point. I mean, I didn't even think about that. That's great, man. That's good stuff. Yeah. CrossFit is life again. I'm kidding.
Can't escape it. Can't escape it. So
can't leave it.
Can you give a few names of some of the brands that you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. We still do a lot of stuff with nonprofits, like one of the big nonprofits in town, Adaptive Training Foundation. They're an amazing group. They're a gym in Carrollton that they do.
Such a rad place, dude.
Dude, that place, right? I mean, it's like, if you guys haven't been there, I encourage everybody in the DFW area to check it out. They have this thing called Sweatiest Hour. First Friday of every month, they do an open workout for adaptive and non-adaptive athletes at the same time, which is awesome. Like anybody can go do it. That we've been working with them for the last 3 years where, every 9 weeks they bring in a class of athletes. They're a mix of civilians and military that have been injured or have been now in the world of being adaptive. And it's the coolest thing in the world. You see people come in wheelchairs and they walk out and you're like, wait a minute, like, this was like a song. Like, no, it's not a song. It's like actually happening here. And we get to be like literally like the first day is tomorrow. We have a class starting tomorrow. We're so pumped. We just had a briefing call with the co-crew. But like we get to be front seat to all these stories. We get to hold a camera like this close to everybody. And, you talk about a place where you have to build trust quick. I mean, a lot of these guys, honestly, their disability is probably honestly like something that is just a front for something even deeper that they're working through that, man, they definitely don't want you to see. And so it's such an honor and privilege to be in that. Adaptive training is great. That's a huge one for us. Like we just, I mean, we just love that work. We did a lot of work for American Heart Association. That's kind of cool. I'm a big foodie, and we did a bunch of we've done a lot of food stuff with those guys lately. And so that's been really fun to do, is all this food content for them. I think they're doing these heart healthy things. We've actually flipped my house upside down into like kind of a makeshift, studio and do the cooking here and all that. So that's been great. And then, we got some pretty big corporate clients that are out there that like our wealth management practices. That Raymond James is a big wealth management company that they actually do a ton of really cool stories that they let us just kind of tell these crazy stories of these like wealth advisors, even though it's like probably a pretty cut and dry industry. So we get to travel a lot with those guys. And I get to do a lot of work with Lululemon. I get everybody knows Lululemon, I guess. I'm always like, hey, you guys know Lululemon? I'm still like 2010, like, hey, pop-up store like downtown.
Right.
But no, it's been such a cool ride with those guys, in that I've been ambassador a couple times with Lululemon in the fitness area side of things. And then the last few years, I've been able to do a lot of photography with them. And so we just started a new round of ambassadors. And when they get new ambassadors, these are kind of members of the community that are kind of their pillars. They all get their pictures taken. They put them up on the walls at the stores. And now there's so many stores now, like in DFW, I can't even keep count, but I think there's like 16 or 17 new ambassadors. And I just started shooting all those like a couple weeks ago again, or a couple days ago, actually. But that's such a fun project, because honestly, that is like we were talking about, Andy, like that ties in my fitness background, that ties in the photography, that ties in like even the pace of the photography. Like, most of the time when we do these shoots, like there's a lot of people, there's art directors, there's people breathing down your necks. These are shoots where it's like, whoa, like it's just myself and the ambassador, or that athlete or that coach. And I'm just talking to them like, hey, what do you want to see? Who are you? What do you like? And so it's such a fulfilling project. I'm always grateful when I get to shoot the ambassadors, because it's just like a totally different notch of like connection, And so, yeah, that's really fun. I mean, that's kind of occupying a lot. And just a lot of corporate, we do a lot of corporate work that allows us to do some other really cool storytelling. And so it's super fun. And, and
let's,
the Raymond James, go ahead.
Let's play a game.
Yeah.
I am a budding creative. I'm new to the field. I'm super hungry. Okay. I want clients like you. How do I get these clients? And how do I know the client is right for me, that I want to work with them? And then let's say I get the client, how do I keep that relationship? What has worked for you?
Yeah, great question. So I'm going to start with this. Every project you approach there's three factors. There's people, the project, and the money. My rule of thumb always is 2 out of 3 have to exist. 3 out of 3 exist, that's a unicorn project. 2 out of 3 have to exist in order for you to consider it. Meaning, like there is no money involved, but dude, the people are great, and dude, it's Rogue Fitness, and I really want to do something with it. Okay, cool, do it. That sounds good. It might open up an opportunity for something else. If the money's great, but it's like baby clothing, and you're not really into baby clothing, but man, the people are like the best people ever. They treat me right. They never balk at my prices. Yeah, do it. I mean, you might learn how to, soften your edge. So that's more on the business, or when should I apply my time and headspace to things? I think if you're really talking about building clients, I mean, I can trace back everybody that I've worked with now to a relationship like a decade ago, that I was not even in the creative world yet, thinking remotely I was going to do this. Like, for example, the relationships I built with Lululemon dates back to 2008, 2009. I mean, you're talking 15, 16, 17 years ago, building relationships that even till today, now they're coming to fruition, right? So it's not necessarily, I think a lot of it is like everybody sees the immediate. Give yourself some time to build those relationships, never burn a bridge, but like build relationships the right way. I think that's huge. Everybody that I work with, like even I think about ATF, like I met one of the ATF athletes when we were doing Carry the Load on the Katy Trail, like, I would say over 10 years, 10 years ago. And I remember vividly, I took a picture of him. I was using my X Pro 2. I remember this 3514 X Pro 2, take a
That
picture.
was such a good body. I'm so mad I don't have
Oh
one
my
anymore.
gosh, I want it back. I want the X Pro 1 back. And then I threw this picture out on the internet, and it was Jake Thompson, Compete Every Day Jake Thompson. He was like, "Oh, that's so-and-so from Adaptive Training Foundation." I was like, "Huh, that's kind of cool." Fast forward literally like 8 years later, I'm ambassador again with David Vibora and Colin Anderson and the late Neff Mendoza, rest in peace, Neff. We were all ambassadors together, and we got our pictures taken at ATF.
Yeah.
And then that spurred on this, like, wait, like an opportunity to do photography for Lulu, an opportunity to work for ATF. So like these are relationships that have been like simmering for years. So that's just how I work. I can't really, I've always told people I've never owned a business card in my life. The only reason I have a business card is so I can flash it American Airlines. So when they're like, this is media, I'm like, yes, this is media. That's
Yeah.
it. And so I think that approach for me has always been very grassroots and organic. I do understand that this modern times that you might need to advertise and do that, but I would always I think it goes back to some core principles. Be a person of your word. Like if you're going to say you're going to do something, do it. You mentioned it. Matt. I thought was great advice. Don't ever overstretch what your knowledge is. If you're like not a graphics animator, do not take a graphics animation
Yeah.
project just because. Like, don't do it. Or if you're like, I'm not a wedding photographer. I've done one wedding in my entire life, and that was because like I had a client that we worked for a long time that was like, we're marrying my brother at our villa in Italy. All right, I'll be there for that one. But like, I'm not a wedding photographer. Like,
Yeah.
if there's ever a wedding that came by, I'm like, I'm not doing that just because I know better than to dip my toes into that, And so I think that's another thing too. Getting clients is so much more about knowing who you are versus like, man, let me just like low hanging fruit. Let me just grab. Trust me, I still have to like reel it in too. Like, whoa, do you really need to invest your time into that? You really need to get into that project. And I think the other part of it is like having really great people around you that may or may not be in the industry, but are really great people to bounce things off of, whether that's a coach, a mentor, a family member, a spouse, like having some confidants that really have your best interest in mind are great
Outside
people.
perspective.
Gotta have that because they can probably see something that you might be blinded to because you might be going, wait, well, this company's big name, they got a big budget. I've worked with big names and they don't always have it's what I mean? Like the book is not, you can't judge a book by its cover. Just because it's so-and-so brand X, brand Y, does not always guarantee you will have, financial and creative autonomy. It doesn't. Sometimes it's these no-namers that you're like, I've never heard of that company in my life.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, whatever. So again, the other piece of advice would be like, don't just be blinded by maybe the name or like, the group. There's so much more work. And I think it's sweeter when you actually get that project, like I've been able to help a friend of mine who does a lot of work with the Dallas Mavs. And of course it's a sports team. You've always wanted to work with those. And I remember my first early run-ins with the Mavs trying to orchestrate projects on my own and not much success, but like I've had way more success now being literally, even with where I'm in my career, I'm photo assisting my friend on these shoots and it's great. It's kind of like knowing who you are, knowing where you would fit into that continuum is so important to know that like, where are you best served? And so again, like it's a difficult question, but I think it always boils back to like knowing yourself is like number one,
Yeah, I think it's great that you also touched on the relationships too, because that's another thing that I've been trying to get through to Lola is that, everybody you meet, regardless of the situation of how you met them, they remember you based on how you made them feel. And that leaves a lasting impression.
Yeah.
It could be somebody at the coffee shop that you just crossed paths with, and somewhere down the road, universe aligns, and all of a sudden they're a project manager, and they come across your work like, oh, I remember that guy. Every seed you plant grows into something.
Yep.
So don't ever burn any bridges. Do your
Yep.
best to put your best foot forward and keep those
Absolutely.
relationships. That's kind of how I fell into this whole thing with competitive cameras. I've known Eugene and the family forever because my dad shopped at the original store. And
Yeah,
when
I'm
I,
really glad how you got into it. So that's
yeah,
cool.
and when I started shooting full time, that's where I went. And then I left and came back. And I told Eugene's like, hey man, I got some free time. Let me borrow some gear and do some YouTube reviews. And we had a conversation, and one thing led to another. And here I am.
And that was, again, you said that was your dad started shopping there. So I mean,
Yeah,
you're talking a generational relationships building. And so yeah, I think that's such a great story too, because again, like a company like Competitive Cameras, having stood the test of time. I mean, I can only imagine what it was like during like the pandemic. Geez, like for any small business that had a
yeah,
storefront was like, like, and so again, I think it speaks volumes of to them and to you of saying, okay, there is a level of dedication I think we should all have to certain things. I think that sometimes with social media and our current pace of society, I think unfortunately one of the first things we burn are relationships. It's like, man, if you
yeah,
don't have anything for me, I'm out. It's like, hold on. Like that's a human being, right? That's a group of people. Those are breathing, living souls. So like maybe we're not as, dismissive of that. And I think it's just kind of a byproduct of how our society does. You see a comment, you cancel somebody, you just move on. But what, I think what we're both saying is like, hey, just stop, slow down for a sec. Like, again, I would rather have like 3 or 4 really solid clients that I work with all the time than
yeah,
like a revolving door of 20 different clients every year. Especially if you're an entrepreneur in this industry, like you said, you've got to build your way up to a point where you're like, hey, I no longer have to be like really worried month to month because,
hmm,
hey, I've built a bed of work with X, Y, and Z companies, and I know they're going to rely on this content coming through. And so I think that, again, maybe a physical thing to always share with like young creatives, like, hey, get to a point where you build a relationship where you can have kind of a retainer model with a couple folks. Then you understand that like, hey, even at worst, I have a minimum of this coming in if I do this type of work. And I think that is maybe a very practical thing for up and coming creatives to say, hey, look, if you can land a relationship for more than one shoot, say it's for every other month or twice a year or
hmm,
some kind of like long-term commitment. I mean, at the end of the day, that's just going back to saying you're building a deeper relationship, right? Because there's accountability now in your head too. It's not just, well, the client's got to pay me to do the work. Well, you also have to deliver. And so
yeah.
I like it when there's that accountability too, where it's like, hey, we have to really like put our mouth, or put our work where our mouth is. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I was still shooting quite a bit with Rich the past
Yeah.
year, and through my time with working with Rich, I mean, we started in like 2016 or so, and working with the bike brands and watching how social media has changed and watching the whole, I guess, the growth of the influencers and
Mm-hmm.
the influencers getting brand deals. It's interesting watching them in public at an event face to face with people because a lot of these people are so used to being online and this persona that face to face they can't have a conversation.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And that's one of the biggest things with being an entrepreneur, freelancer, or especially someone that's in a position where you're shooting people. You have to be able to talk. Like Kelly,
Yeah.
she knows how to get people comfortable.
Yep.
That's how I cut my teeth in the service industry, waiting tables and managing restaurants. And also, when I first started shooting, I was shooting a lot for D Magazine and Modlux, where we would get booked to go take pictures of people at their environment, but I've only got 45 minutes,
You got to
which,
build relationship
yeah,
quick.
which 30 minutes of that is me setting equipment up. So the whole time I'm setting equipment up, I'm just having a conversation with these people, just making it feel like, hey, I'm a guest at your house and let's just chit chat instead of, oh,
I
this
love
dude
it.
just invaded my space and I feel awkward because he's got 5 lights and this huge lens in my face. So being
And
able,
that's practical. That's
yeah,
practical. Like they're already uncomfortable, right? So like they already know that there's lights and cameras. Like, so
yep.
yeah, keep going. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I think that's one of those skills that a lot of people don't think about developing. And that's a huge part of your ability to create income or create lasting relationships with these people that
Yeah.
have the money that are going to pay you.
Yeah, I mean, I think being able to talk to folks and having a relationship, having being interested more than interesting. I think what you're talking about, the influencers, everybody's so concerned with being interesting that they
Yeah.
stop concerned with being interested in what somebody else is possibly saying. And I think it is a shame that you know, at least if you are going to get into the world of influencing, I guess some of this is, but like, hey, be able to actually be that same person, kind of off the stage. That was the one thing that I always noticed with like really great public speakers too. I think one of the best public speakers I've ever met. Well, actually, he's the pastor at our church. One of them, Earl McClellan. He's one of the best public speakers, not because of his delivery. His delivery is dynamite. It's what he does off the stage. He's literally the same person.
Yep.
He's not like off the stage end scene. Okay, well, I'm just don't talk like ugh, like
Yeah.
He's literally he looks at it as if I'm outside or I'm awake or I'm in front of a person, whether my family, a congregation, or a stranger. I'm on stage. He treats that as, hey, I'm either building or destroying a relationship here. And so he is such a genuine speaker because he's the same on and off. And I think if you only deliver when the cameras are on or the reels rolling or you're on stage, I think it catches up to you at some point, because then it just becomes a charade, right? You're like, man,
Yeah.
this is song and dance. Here we go. I got to get it set up one more time. And so I think there's also a narrowing in your longevity of what you can do. But again, in this day and age, it is kind of tough to navigate because it is hard. I feel
Yeah.
for some of these influencers, like, hey, if Rich is handed like $5,000-$10,000 bikes, how's he going to say anything bad about them?
Yeah.
Like, does he have the gall to do that? But at the same time, he's built different. And for those of you guys that don't know, Richard Drew, he's a phenomenal cyclist out in Fayetteville area, but he's a good old friend of both Andy and I's. He's a rare one where he is very captivating in person too. You have a
Yeah.
beer or coffee with him, and he's the same guy as he is teaching and instructing and getting in front of the camera. And so, but yeah, that's a great point. I think a lot of folks kind of just like they rush to the what does it look like in front of a camera, and it's all perfect and rehearsed.
Mhm.
Like admittedly, this is the first time I've actually set up a camera for one of these. I was just going to like bring it. I'm like texting people, yo, how do you get the red 3D LUT?
That's hilarious.
And it's like,
Yeah.
again, because I just genuinely am like that format, whether it's a camera or a phone or an iPad or a webcam, it shouldn't change your presentation or what you say, right? It should be the
Yeah.
same.
And I brought that whole conversation up to kind of segue into your social media. And
Yeah.
I just, from watching your evolution on your Instagram, because Instagram, like everybody else, was a way of telling people what you ate, your family,
Yeah.
and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And then eventually, when you start using social media as part of your business, it evolves. And
Correct.
where you've evolved, and from my experience with you in person and seeing what you're putting out on social media, one, you still have this this desire within you to educate. I think you have a very strong need to educate, and you don't do it for anything other than the joy of sharing information. And it's very apparent. And you are,
Thank you.
like you said, the same off the camera as you are on the camera. So I commend you for that.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
And talking about social media, what has worked for you? What were some of the roadblocks? What didn't work? You have any lessons that you'd like to share with some of the youngins that are coming up trying to build a
Yeah.
brand?
Well, I don't know if social, like I feel like I've been shadow banned. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even know what that means. No, here's the thing with social media. It's literally it's a megaphone. It's a town hall that you can now just talk to more people around the world
Yeah.
simultaneously, right? And so what's always been funny about social media is I always had this thing where like if I have more followers than money in the bank, I'm probably doing it wrong. Like I'm chasing something too
Yeah.
far. So like let me grow with it. And the social media part of it is interesting because I do want everybody to understand that social media can be so curated, right? To a point where you definitely can influence exactly what you want people to see and not see. Now, obviously, as a person with family, you want to be really respectful of your kids and safety and all that stuff. So yes, but I think what's worked for me with social media is number one, knowing that like, do I have control with this thing that at any time I can put it down? If I'm getting, and trust me, I fight this a lot. Like, oh, whoa, I've reached a season when I'm on the phone way too much,
Yeah.
either looking at my stuff, looking at other people's stuff, or putting the social media content above others. For me, what works is if it takes me more than a set amount of time to create a post, then I'm probably curating too hard, But if I can develop a process of like, let's say something as simple as, okay, the second I hit the ground at a new city, I take a few pictures, I edit them at night before I go to bed. I don't post them right away. Let me just wait till later and then I'll make a big post later. Cool. But like, I definitely think that like social media should be a reflection of like who you are and what you want to put out. And so, and again, I just don't have time to be less than authentic. I'm like, this is who I am, like I can't put out more things that are, too curated. And I think a large part of it is another opportunity to, here's the thing, when you put something out there, it's never going away. So like social media is kind of a time capsule for us. So I don't really want to know that like I've put something out there that I'm not like at least proud of to show anybody. And so that's a big responsibility too, to say like, wait, like this stuff's not going away. Somebody's going to dig it up. And so, and I've been fortunate with so many mentors in my life that I'm like, man, I wish what you just told me, we could bottle it up and put it somewhere and people could see it. Well, that's essentially what I'm trying to do. A lot of what I'm talking about on social media are just remixes from great teachers and educators that I've had and been in contact with, or great books I've read that I'm like, they're not sharing it. I'm going to share it on their behalf and just make sure
That's
people
cool.
hear it. And so that to me, it's kind of like, man, I just find it, and I love learning stuff. I learned so much on the internet. I mean, literally, we have a joke of like, and then people are, on set when they see all our stuff, and they see our crew, like, man, you guys got a lot of stuff. And we're like, yeah, we just watched a bunch of YouTube videos on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm like, that joke's not half like false. Like that's actually kind of true. But in this day and age, I feel like it's so important to take control of what you can in social media. I actually love social media. Like I know that like there's like weird parts of it, but like I love it because again, I don't feel a sense of obligation to like do a certain thing. That's probably another part of like, if you do become an influencer and you get paid to say certain things, like I just think the genuineness kind of goes away, like, hey, if I can't shoot with this camera because I want to, and company A or B is forcing me to, I don't know if that's genuine. And so I always maybe try to at least some advice to the youngins out there, just try to keep it as pure to you as you can. I mean, everybody's different. How boring would the world be if we're all the exact same, And so be yourself, everybody else is already taken,
Good advice. Stay true to yourself. Be honest, because
do you.
if you start developing a little bit of momentum doing something that's not you, you gotta maintain that.
You got to keep going.
And
Now
that's
you're
not fun.
viral for being X, Y, and Z. You don't want that.
Yeah.
And that's another really interesting thing is I actually use social media as a giant creative experiment. Like I will create content just to see, like, I just want to practice. So like one of the big things, like I got these metas for Christmas. Finally, my wife's like, you get some metas. I'm like, it's not creepy. Just like I'm not in the bathroom with the metas on, like it's all good. But I use them to document street photography because it's easier for me just to click it and then I put my camera up and you can see what I'm shooting. And sure, it's a bummer when sometimes you put some effort into it and you get like 5 views. You're like, dang, that really sucks. But again, I've just loved the process of creating that content because it's so fun to do,
So let's touch on the workshop.
Yeah.
Got a workshop this Saturday. We're going to be at the Slate. 3-point lighting. This
Yes,
is
sir.
a practical. It's intensive. So bring your camera, right?
Yeah, bring your camera. It'd be awesome to have folks bring whatever they got. You don't got to bring your whole kit. Just bring like camera, lens. I'm sure some of y'all bring like everything, but we definitely want it to be structured to where I want people to see the process more than like just the end result. I want people to see like what goes on up here when you look at a space. Like I love looking at spaces, and it's kind of like an interior designer would probably look at a space to see where to knock a wall down and put a couch and all that. I'm very much the same way when it comes to like a space and like, oh, how we're going to light the space for a scene or for an interview or for a headshot. Like, okay, where are we going? So that's my goal, is to make sure everybody sees the space a little bit different. And then the lighting is, to me, honestly, the easy part. It's kind of getting that initial vision of what I'm trying to capture first. So yeah, bring your cameras, bring your gear. It's going to be, a little bit of theory, but then a lot of hands-on. And so that's, I think, where we do the most learning, is when we get to touch the stuff and move things around.
Can you give them a quick overview of the flow of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. So, 10 a.m., we're going to start probably like 30, 45 minutes of kind of this classroom time. We'll try to keep it interactive and a little bit shorter, I know how it is. We go back to school, like, attention span, 30 minutes. I mean, people fall asleep, but like, we'll keep it light. And again, that's a time that we get to cover some other basics of not just the lighting part, but I think you can't talk about lighting without talking about your camera and how it interacts, and some history too. And then we take a little bit of break, and then we spend, I think, the next couple hours literally creating a 3-point lighting setup in the studio, which is going to be our easiest place to catapult and like learn that. I'm a big fan of like learning the rules so we can break them. Once we learn that, then we'll actually take some of that stuff out into the real world, meaning like, we'll just be the Slate School. It's kind of a shared workspace area. So we can go outside the studio and like literally it's kind of like spin the bottle in the room. Like, what direction is the bottle pointing? Let's shoot something into that direction. I think that'll be a really fun kind of like, exercise and activity where people go get their hands dirty a little bit, grab some lights, grab some fixtures, like reposition things. I think it's really also good to like compare contrast to see this is setup A versus setup B, literally in the same location, but we've just moved the angles of things around.
Yeah.
And then subtly, there's also this conversation then, since we are shooting video, like, hey, how does focal length come into play as far as what we're trying to accomplish look-wise? I think more so than anything, like the focal length, and more so than your sensor or your camera quality, like what is your lens helping you do? Because I think lens focal lengths really change and augment the creative look. Is it super wide and tight? Is it like shallow depth of field, deep depth of field? Are we shooting more portraiture? Are we trying to get environmental capture? So that'll be really fun to do, to kind of get outside the walls a little bit of the studio. So yeah, that's kind of the breakdown, right? I think we have like 2-3 hours blocked off.
Yeah, we got the whole space to ourselves too, so it'll be fantastic.
Great.
You use continuous lighting for both stills and video.
I do. I still use strobes, but not as much anymore. I think strobes for sure, like if we're in an event environment
Yes.
where I can't bring a giant constant light throughout the room and take up room, or even worse, it would just be blinding people. The strobe still is great to just get a quick burst of light. That's all I need, and move on. I think in some regards, like really high speed capture, like if I'm ever shooting sports or sports portraits or dancers that need to be frozen in time real quick, it's still really good to use strobes. But yeah, most of the time, because we are shooting both video and photo simultaneously, I love using constant lights, because then the two teams can cross over really easily. And sometimes, as a DP, I find myself with the stills camera and with the video camera, and I can just one to the other. And depending on the camera, you usually just flip a switch from one to the other.
Yep.
And so I think it helps ultimately speed the shoot up, where the clients or the talent aren't just like sitting there waiting the whole time. Constant light technology has gotten so good now. The CRIs are on so great. Like the light quality is great. It doesn't produce a lot of heat. I think it helps saves a lot of time on like what you see is what you get when you're on set.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of fussing around. and they're really easy to manage because they're always tied into an ecosystem on an app or something where like you can be way across the room and you can be dialing things in,
Yeah.
or maybe you have a fixture that you've put on a wall or really far away that now you got to go back and forth between your monitor and that. Like you really could just adjust it from a phone, and I love that convenience. And so yeah, I mean, again, I definitely think strobes have their place. They're not dead at all. It's just that if you are adding in video, it's just a time and budget saver for so many reasons, you know?
Yeah. The lighting equipment has just the
Yeah.
technology is crazy, man.
I think lighting and audio are two areas. Like I know we're talking a lot about sensors and lenses. I mean, like, trust me, we haven't gotten that far, but like audio tech and lighting tech, I mean, that's leaps and bounds. You hear a lot of gaffers and audio engineers kind of grumbling because they're like, oh, this a lot of new tech, like
Yeah.
32 bit internal audio. What the
Yeah.
heck
But
is
you like,
that? You know, like,
you
yeah,
should get
put me
on it
out of
because
a
it makes your
job.
job so much easier.
That's what I'm saying. Like, go get it, go learn it,
Yeah.
please. Like, you're done in half the time. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, lighting.
The amount of light that these lights are putting out relative to their size these days, and the
Yeah,
fact that they've got the ballast, a lot of them have the ballast built into the
that's
head. You
crazy.
just plug it into the wall and you can control it with your phone. It's like future stuff from when I
It's
was
really
starting.
crazy. It's really crazy. And I think that's another great point. We'll touch on that a lot. Your light source, we talk about lights, but I think one of the biggest thing is your support gear, your diffusion options. You can
Hmm.
have a really big source of light and you can change the look by just the way you diffuse. If you're doing something directional, you're wanting to do something that's a little bit more spread out. Are we doing a cove lighting? Are we doing book lighting? Like, how do we use a bigger source to pass it through multiple forms of diffusion to really soften the light? So that'll be a really cool thing to look at too, because with a 3-point lighting setup, each light actually is a different quality of light too. Not all
Yeah.
three lights are the exact same softness or hardness, because that's going to add a lot of texture to your scene as well. So that's a kind of a really great sub point that we kind of talk about as we're going through it, because
Well, that kind
depending
of
on what you're trying to achieve. Yeah.
that segues perfectly into Emily's question. She wants to know if you have one specific brand that you like to use for your constant lighting, or do you use multiple?
No, Emily, that's a great question. When we're on set, we typically use Aperture just because I find that their Sidus Link app is kind of the most universal. It kind of touches multiple generations of their lighting. It does the Amaran all the way through Aperture fixtures. We can put a 1200 on with an Amaran 60D all on the same app. So that's really convenient. My recommendation with brands is if you have a brand you like, stay in that ecosystem, because
Yeah.
even something as
Because
simple as like the menu functions, learning that, like, you don't want to I just don't want to learn two different menu systems. If it works, it works. I love using Aperture for that reason. The other brands, I mean, they have great stuff. Like other brands like Harlow is a great brand that's out there. Harlow has some great lighting out there that's like kind of a more design forward kind of scenario. I think they used to be called Hobo Light, but Harlow is great too. I've got a couple fixtures that use at home. But yeah, any lighting that you can kind of find in the same ecosystem. Like, here's the thing: you're not going to go wrong, right? You're not going to go wrong with most modern lights now. I think part of it is also the discussion on, like, make sure you have really great diffusion, and also make sure you have some other like grip gear that would help shape that light. You're talking about barn doors, you're talking about Fresnel lenses, spotlights, and even something as simple as like negative diffusion, like a nice piece of neg to add some shadows. That really helps too. So lighting is kind of, unfortunately, just the tip of the iceberg, and then you get into all the specialty grip gear that I think really helps really shape light. So yeah.
can you hear me, Dean?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear
Sorry,
me?
my audio cut out for a second.
Oh, no problem.
I am back on track.
He's
Give me
back.
1 second here. Yeah, let me check something real quick. Technical difficulty, crew. Give me 1 second.
All right.
All right, got a question from Isaac who wants to know what gadgets do you use? Gadgets equaling sliders, pan tilt, diffusion tools, etc.
Oh man, gadgets. God, we got so many gadgets. Love using director's monitors as a gadget. Number one, it's great for like if you have a gaffer or you have PAs and assistants and people on set. I think a director's monitor, whether it's a small one or like a big, sometimes we'll use like a Sumo 19, like a bigger monitor so everybody can see. It's so helpful when you set up because everybody can see what's going on. I think it's really critical. Even like the audio engineer needs to see, hey, is my mic in the shot? Like just let him look,
Yeah.
like you don't need to hide that. Other gadgets I love, if you're talking about sliders, I'm old school. I love a good Dana dolly. I like something that has inertia built in. I'm not the biggest fan of gimbal stuff. It's a little robotronic, like it's just a little bit too perfect for me. I like something that has a little bit more natural acceleration, deceleration that you would manually operate with a Dana dolly or something similar to that.
That's Dean on the dance floor right there.
That's me. Just I'm not robotic. I'm more fluid flamingo. I think grip gear. We probably use this floppy cutter, this 4x8 piece of neg more than anything. It's just to create a shadow. It's create a more intense shadow. Sometimes takes away light. That is one thing that we probably use all the time as far as gadgets go. You can build one out of PVC pipes at Home Depot. You can get a fancy one. You can literally just get black duvetine cloth and cover a 4x4 frame with it. Some form of negative fill is super important, and we use. You can even get one of those like 5-in-1 reflectors that's black on one side. You probably wonder like, why is it black? Who needs the black side? Well, that's a great way to create shadow, and so that's something that I think we probably never leave home without is a piece of neg. You'll be shocked if we're shooting outside too. You have a lot of light if you're shooting outside. You just don't have the opportunity for shadow, and that comes in really handy when we are shooting outside. But yeah, man, gadgets galore. I mean, we love a good gadget.
So I will leave this open for some more Q&A, but I got some rapid fire questions for you, Dino.
Okay. Yep.
When you're crushing edits, what are you listening to? What's on the speakers?
Well, if I'm editing video, I'm listening probably to the video. I'm listening to the dialogue. If I'm editing photos, I am jamming country music. I know it's kind of maybe I've been in Texas too long, but I got Ella Langley, Morgan Wallen, you name it. I'm the 17-year-old like country kid. Like I'm jamming. So I love country music, and I'm just blasting that when I'm editing. Like I just love country. There's something about it. Country and rap are like very similar. They kind of talk about the same things, but just the delivery is way
in a different way. Yeah, it's funny.
One you can play at the dinner table at a barbecue. It's okay. The other one you can still play at a barbecue. It just depends on who's at the barbecue.
Right.
But yeah,
they do have a lot of parallels. That's funny.
A lot of parallels where we spent all our money on our truck. One has mud tires, the other has rims. It's a girl that I've been wanting to date.
Right.
Forever. Okay, got it. Yeah, and some we're still going to church on Sunday though. That's true. So both genres cover that. So
I think this next question is probably going to be kind of difficult for you to answer because you are a aficionado of all cameras, as we've come to see on your social media. But is there one piece of photographic equipment that you sold that you wish you still had?
Oh man, X Pro 1, like Fuji X Pro 1. I thought that was probably one of the best cameras I've ever. It's like I think it's one of the best cameras that was ever made from Fuji. It was such a revolutionary play into the mirrorless world. So the X Pro 1, I do regret getting rid of. I think other ones though, honestly, like the ones I have regretted getting rid of, I've gotten back. Like I went to the Leica M11 system and I did not like the new M11, so I went completely back to the M10s. Yeah. And so I'm staying there. You know what? Video camera, I had to make a hard shift in video. We went away from the Panasonic EVA ones. I thought that was a phenomenal cinema camera, but they just don't offer any support. And then Sony made the FX6, which is the EVA one, but better. So it was like, but I love the image that came off of the EVA one, the Panasonic. We used it for so many projects that like when I finally like got rid of it, it was, it was kind of sad. Oh,
It's tough to beat the
oh,
ergos on
I'm
the
back.
FX6.
Yeah, the FX6 is incredible. We use them for a lot of like corporate stuff, a lot of live streams. So, but yeah, I don't really regret like a lot of gear, to be quite honest. I'm just
Well, I
kind of
think
like stuff.
you saying the X Pro 1 being a Leica user, that says a lot about
Yeah.
that camera.
Well, that kind of introduced me into the world of like, I mean, the X Pro is not truly a rangefinder, but it gave you that
Yeah.
feel. It was kind of the gateway for that. Um, oh, another camera that we just recently got rid of was the Nikon D850, that DSLR. That was a sweet camera. Like just that shutter snap of the mirror.
Hmm.
I miss that a lot. And I do find that the images render so well. It's not like the modern mirrorless, like clinical edge. It had this great roll off on
Hmm.
it. And so, yeah, the D850 was one that that we loved a lot. So, but yeah, it's gear, man. It's like comes around, goes around. Like
Yeah.
I've
It's like wishing you
rebought.
still had that car you had in high school.
Absolutely. I had that
Yeah.
Toyota Tacoma, man. I wish I still had it. And every time I see you rolling around in one, I'm like, dude, I need to get my life, I need to get my act back together, get me that Tacoma.
Um,
But yeah, I think like honestly, like there's a couple focal lengths that I think I probably miss more than the actual cameras. That 35-1.4 from Fuji with the X Pro 1 to me was like, that's like honestly, that's kind of like the same feeling I get now when I shoot like a monochrome with like a 28 mil. Like I just think that like that's it.
it,
Those two things are like built for each other.
it's strange because the focal length is not anything that I've ever drawn to in the past, but the
Mhm.
16 millimeter 1.4 for the Fuji system
Ooh,
is just butter for me, dude. I love that thing
yeah,
because
it's
it's
kind of
wide
like
enough.
yeah.
It's wide enough to get the environment for your portraits, but it also, if you're close enough, it gets separation, but it doesn't
At one
distort.
four. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you
Yeah.
already crop sensor, so you're anything that was distorted is already cropped in. Plus, I think minimum focus distance on that 16-1.4 was like it's very
It's pretty
close. And
good.
again, I
Yeah.
think that's the one thing that I miss a lot about. Um, that's the one thing I miss a lot about that Fuji world. Like the Leica rangefinders, can't get that close, and so point 0.7 is kind of like your minimum focus distance. So
Yeah.
anytime I can get a little bit closer than that, like it's a treat. But yeah, the X Pro 1, man. I mean, if you find one out there, like holler at me. I'm there in a heartbeat.
We'll keep an eye out. So if you are about to munch on some pizza, New York style or Chicago style, my man?
Oh man, New York, man. The thinner the better.
Yeah.
New Haven style actually is my favorite. Super thin crust, like charred black bottom with still a little chew, like 850-degree coal oven. New Haven style. Where is it? Garland. There's a Fortunate Son. They do New Haven style pie. I mean,
I'll have to
that's
go
my
check it out
favorite.
then.
But like, I can't do the thick slice Chicago. I mean, can't do it, y'all. It's like lasagna. Can't do it.
What piece of tech that exists today, if you were to go back in time to Dean when he started his graphic design studies, would just blow your mind? You'd be like, there's no way this exists.
I mean, other than AI prompts, which are scary,
It's
and like, whoa, like this is
it's
very
pretty wild,
good.
dude.
I would honestly say like the ability to draw on your iPad. I use an iPad and a pen, not just to sketch, but I use it a ton to edit. I think you
Yeah.
can, that tactile precision of just touching a little point and sliding, or like if I'm ever doing any kind of masking on Lightroom or something, and I can just draw that very specific edge. I
Yep.
love that. I remember I had a Wacom tablet thing a long time ago, and it was like this pad that was attached to your computer, and now
I
you're
used to
drawing
live
on
by
it way
those
back here.
things.
Dude, those things are awesome. But
Yeah.
like they've just kind of streamlined it and cut out the middleman. It's like, hey, just draw on the iPad. You're like, oh, cool. And so I think that piece of tech is like really cool, honestly. Oops, I'm cutting out here. That piece of tech is awesome to be able to draw on a screen and to get that. Apple, if you're hearing me, just put that on your laptops, man. Like, you touch the screen for crying out loud. Like everybody, Dell has it. Like
Well,
Asus, come on,
supposedly
man.
it's
Like, I
supposed
know
to
you
happen
guys
at the
are.
end of this year. So
Well,
we'll
yeah,
see.
I'll pay top dollar. We already pay top dollar. Just put it in the card, man. We got it. You know.
Do you prefer shooting tethered or free range?
Oof, I actually like free
Depends on the
range,
job.
honestly.
Yeah.
Not even the job. I think it depends on like the art director. They're like, I need to see it. Like, all right, here it is.
Yeah.
I think that like I think speed is great. I think flexibility. Obviously, if you got a cord attached to you, I love showing the person I just shot the photo, and I find it hard with the cord. You know, I'm like, what?
Hmm.
And so I prefer just shooting. If there was a system where I could shoot and it would just like wirelessly appear for people in the back to see, great. Like, but if I mean that's kind of clunky. I just would prefer a more like intimate, like the photographer Platon. I love his work. He shoots on a 500 cm Hasselblad. He's just talking to the person, just ripping shots, and he's just shooting. He's not, connected in anything. He just has this freedom to move about where he is, and maybe the person is positioned differently, and he wants to move. Tethered always makes me feel like I can only go 30 feet because then I'm running
Yeah.
out of cable. So yeah.
If you are not in the creative world right now, what would be your method of income? What would you be doing?
I'd probably be in the food industry, honestly. I mean,
In what
things
capacity?
that I would love to like. I really think I would in another life. I would have wanted to be a chef. Like I
Yeah.
like the stress and the pressure of that. I've always loved cooking. I almost went to culinary school instead of um, medical school. That would have really killed my parents. But it was touch and go there for a sec, and so I love. Uh-oh, can you hear me?
I can hear
I
you.
think it's down. My camera ran out of battery. One sec. I'm
It's
gonna
all
get.
good.
I'm gonna get back into. Here we go. We're having just the nicest tech things. Here we go. I think I can. Here we go. One sec. Boom. Here we go. I think, yeah, I think the food industry would be great. I've always threatened to start a coffee shop at some point. I love a coffee shop too. I think there's just something very communal about coffee
Yeah.
and how people just come hang. I love that. But for sure, like something in the gastronomical, I would love to do that. I'd love to get to a point where like money didn't matter. I mean, I know like some
Right.
great chef friends and they're just killing it, but like it's hard to make a buck. And so if you were ever to be in a situation where you could kind of like financially be independent and do
Yeah.
that, I think that would be like that would be a great industry.
Yeah. Because you can't halfway do service industry. Once you're in, you got to commit to it, man.
Man, and it's every day.
Yeah.
There's no days off.
Well, I'm trying to convince Eugene once we move to open up a little coffee shop in the new space.
Okay, because like I've been to so many places that just have a little, it's not even maybe it's
It doesn't
just
have to
there.
be a full-on Starbucks, just enough to serve an espresso, a good latte. You're good. Little
I think
sofa
that
action.
that's it. The concept is like, okay, here's espresso with water or milk. You tell me.
Yeah.
That's all you get. If you want a lot of milk, it's a latte. If you want milk with
Yeah.
foam, it's a cappuccino. You want a little bit of milk, it's cortado, whatever. But like,
Yeah.
I think it can be that easy. And so, yeah, I've always been really enamored when you go into some place of business that has nothing to do with coffee, serve coffee.
Yeah.
Like, I just think it's a hospitality thing more than anything. I love it. So we try to do that at the gym for a little bit, and nobody cleaned the espresso machine. So it was like, by 3 weeks, it's like, all right, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
Like, that's terrible. So
We're probably going to start getting some cameras and coffees meetups pretty soon too.
oh,
So
I mean,
yeah, like I said,
that
that's
would be
one of our initiatives is to help the community grow a little bit more.
you're talking about like do a photo walk with that?
Everything. It could just be let's get together at a coffee shop, hang out, talk about cameras, just share war stories of working with clients and stuff like that. Or we could do
Yeah,
a photo
I love
walk.
that.
Let's go meet
Dude,
up
I
here
love
and
that.
go do this walk.
I think
Yep.
it's so necessary in this community. I think that would really bring a lot of people together.
Yeah. Well, Dean, thank you so much for your time. We ran a lot
Yeah, man.
longer than I expected because we like to talk.
Oh, like this is yeah. Y'all watch out. Me and
Yeah.
Andy, we're out here, you know.
So
So
just a quick wrap up for everybody. We are having this class on the 16th. That's this Saturday. Starts at 10 at the Slate. There is a link in the description for you to sign up. But also, if you go to our social media on Instagram, it's Comp Cameras, and Dean is DEANZU or XU. He's got a post. If you follow the both of our Instagram accounts and tag a buddy, tomorrow I'm going to draw a winner where whoever followed us and tagged a buddy gets free entry. So we're giving away 2 entries for this weekend's class. And I have a model lined up for this weekend also. So if you show up, bring your camera, learn all the lighting, learn all the tech, and also walk away with some really good pics. Karma's a great model.
let's do it, man. I'm
do it.
pumped. Again, I'm just like super thankful for y'all. I know we've been brewing on this for a while. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that like what I think is really great is this is something that I would just be like literally. I remember I've had many of these conversations about 3-point lighting just to like people I work with or even my kids, right? Or like like at a school, we were contracted to do a studio for a private school here in Plano, and I'm sitting there talking to half awake teenagers. Don't you see the cool part about a fill light? They're like, oh. And so what's really awesome is the fact that no, you guys like actually believe enough in this information that you want to present it to the masses and for you guys to get behind it. It's just really cool. So it's a big honor, man. It's a big honor to be working with you guys. So I'm truly thankful for
Appreciate you helping out, man. Because I knew, like I said, your social media, it's very apparent that you have a joy of sharing information. So I knew this would be right up your alley.
Man, it's great. It's life-giving. And man, I can't wait for Saturday and, see what happens. So super pumped.
All right, crew. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Dean, for your time. We will catch you this Saturday. See you soon.
Thank you guys. Peace.
Later, brother.